Hi, today I'm going to be reviewing Under the Never Sky by Veronica Rossi. So let's get into the review. So first off, this book is set in a dystopian world where there's this city and the people live in this city, and the city is kind of like people kind of live like in this virtual reality game, I guess is the best way to describe it, where they don't really live, they kind of just experience things through a game-like mechanism. That's the best way I can describe it, really. So in this virtual reality world, their senses are off, they can't really smell things such as roses and everything like that. And also, they're very protected. It's very unheard of for a person to die if they haven't lived, to their 20s and on. There's not very many ways to die, and they're a very safe society. But at the same time, it's very boring. Now, the main character, Aria, she's an interesting character, I guess. She gets exiled very early on from this book, from this world, and she gets sent out to what they call the death shop, which is outside this city, which is not protected. But there are these big energy storms, and they kind of pose a threat to the society that live there. So this book follows 2 points of view. It follows Aria and Perry. Now, Aria is a character who is from the city, but she gets exiled on very early on in the book, and she gets thrown into the death shop. And then there's Perry. Now, he's an outsider, a savage, as Aria calls him and everything. So having these 2 points of view is really interesting in the way that they're both from very different backgrounds, and seeing how they react to the same thing but differently is really great to read about. It also expands upon the world and explains more about the world's sense and about how it got the way it is today. When I was first reading this book, it was actually about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I actually didn't realise that the chapters followed each different character's point of view. And so I was reading it and I was getting kind of confused, and it wasn't until about 3 chapters in that I realised that each character followed either Aria's or Perry's point of view. So blame my tiredness or anything, or maybe it just wasn't done well, I don't know. It's just something that I realised, and something that kind of got a bit slow into me for the book. Something about this book just didn't reside well with me. It didn't click, especially the first half of the book. The first half of the book I was just waiting for something to happen. It kind of got very boring, and Aria and Perry have to get together, and they kind of have to work together to get to a certain place, but they hate each other, they hate what each other stands for, and they just can't see eye to eye. And it's just, I don't know, I've never seen 2 characters really hate each other as much. And it's definitely changed from the second half of the book, where a romance starts to form between them. And it just seems really quickly, and you know what's going to happen, but at the same time, it just, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. I didn't really feel connected to these characters, and there just wasn't something about this book that I wasn't really invested in the book as I can be in other books. I really enjoyed the world building in this book, though. It was amazing, and I would definitely recommend reading it just to read about this world that they live in now. The author explains it really well, the world that they go through, and as you read along in the book, you find out more things, and it's just really interesting and complex. After the first half of the book is a bit slow, the second half of the book definitely picks up, and it's a bit more action-packed, and I don't know, it just starts to get more interesting, and I find myself getting a little bit more invested in the characters. But at the end of the book, I still wasn't really, I was cheering for them, but I wasn't really feeling it in my heart. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed this book, but I was just expecting more. I had higher expectations when I walked in to read this book. I've read such great young adult dystopian novels, and I was expecting this one to be way up there, and for me it just kind of fell short. There was just something about it that it didn't fit right with me. I would definitely be picking up the next book, though. I really want to see what happens to the characters, and I don't know, I'm intrigued. I wouldn't say that I have to get the next book, but in a way I kind of do. I want to see what happens, but at the same time, it's not going to be life-threatening if I don't get the book. I think the main reason I want to continue this series is to learn more about the world that they live in, and learn more things like that. In this book too, there's a very awkward scene between Aria and Perry, where Aria comes up to Perry and she goes, "I think I'm dying, I'm bleeding." And she doesn't say where. It's from Perry's point of view, this chapter. And I'm kind of wondering, where is she breathing from? Her feet throughout the day have gotten really swollen things, so I'm thinking it's her feet. But then something really weird happens. Perry goes, "Oh, it's your first blood." And then it kind of clicks to me. And then Aria mentions something about menstruation, and it's just an awkward scene, especially because Perry describes it as he knows because he smells violets. Now, I don't know what's that about, but it's just an awkward scene, especially for Aria, who in their world apparently they don't have periods or anything like that, menstruation. When you want to get pregnant, you just go ahead and do it, and other than that, I don't know if it's something in the air, birth control, I don't know what it is, but this is something uncommon and unknown for Aria, and for Perry to describe it like to describe it to her and everything. It's just a really awkward, really weird scene and kind of cringeworthy, especially because he keeps going about this violet smell, and I'm just like, what the hell are you on? But in a way, that scene, while it was really awkward, it was really interesting too to see how Arya, who had lived in this world where this stuff didn't happen, you know, it happened to her, and it was just really interesting to see the way that she reacted, and also gave her more insight to the world that Arya is living in. The book also had the potential to be action-packed, but unfortunately it just fell short of that. There's kind of a build-up to where these cannibals are chasing them, trying to kill them and eat them, obviously, because that's what cannibals do. But when it actually comes to the fight scene, when they realise they can't run anymore, they're going to have to turn and fight them. The whole fight lasts like a paragraph. And for such a big build-up to last something like that, it's just kind of a letdown. The author really kind of hid away from the violence and the action, and it was just kind of a letdown to us to have such a big build-up to just have this kind of one paragraph explaining the fight. It seemed like such a big milestone that they would have to get their way through and work through it. But when it actually happened, it was just kind of a big letdown. The characters were good though, they were interesting, and even though I haven't become really invested in them as of yet, I'm sure I will as the books go on. They're really interesting. I just think it took me a little while just to get into the story a little bit. As I said, I don't know what it was about it, I just think that there was something a little bit missing for me. But I will be continuing on the series as I mentioned earlier. I'm just hoping that this book was just going to be a build up to the next book in the series, and it's going to be great. It's going to be a great series, hopefully. It really has the potential to be if it's done well. So in the end, I would probably rate this book 3.5 out of 5 stars, and even then I feel like I'm being a little bit too generous. I don't know, there was just something about it that just, it didn't sit right with me, but I did really enjoy it. I think the 3.5 stars come from the world building. The world is just fantastic, and I would definitely recommend reading this book just for the world itself. So don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, or subscribe if you'd like to see more book reviews from me. And I guess I'll see you next time. Bye!